Inside the facility, Ellie's hands trembled as she searched the abandoned files. She found a terminal with a partially corrupted file marked Project Lazarus. Her heart pounded as she clicked it open. The voice on the recording was cold, professional, devoid of any emotion. Project Lazarus was initiated by the Global Biosecurity Coalition. The virus was designed as a weapon to control the population, an engineered plague to destabilize regions and force compliance. However, when attempts to dispose of the pathogen failed, the virus mutated and began spreading uncontrollably. The virus cannot be eradicated, it evolves, adapts. Our only hope is to harness its power, to weaponize it further. Ellie froze, the world around her crashing down as the realization hit. The virus, what had once seemed like a horrific accident, was no accident at all. It was created intentionally. As the recording continued, a final, chilling note echoed. The virus is now beyond our control. The final solution is to allow it to evolve into a superior form. The infected are only the beginning. We have prepared for what comes next. The recording cut off, leaving Ellie standing in the dark, her breath shallow. What did they do? She whispered to herself. Suddenly, a distant sound reached Ellie's ears, slow, rhythmic. The unmistakable groans of the infected. And it wasn't just a few. The horde had found them again. But this time, they were not the only danger. Ellie stared at the screen, her heart racing. The virus wasn't just a plague, it was a weapon that could evolve into something far worse. The creators had known what they were doing. And now the world was on the brink of something unimaginable. We need to move, Jake's voice broke through the silence. But Ellie couldn't tear her eyes away from the screen. The future was darker than she had ever feared. The virus had been designed to evolve. And that evolution, it was about to begin. This chapter sets up the stakes for the future, adding layers of complexity to the virus and the group's survival. The betrayal by Marcus leaves them with more questions than answers, and the revelation about the virus's origins pushes the group toward an even darker future. The group had made the decision, there was no turning back. Marcus's betrayal had to be avenged, but more importantly, the virus that had decimated the world needed to be stopped. They knew the answers lay in the hands of the organization he was working for, a shadowy group responsible for the outbreak and the continued spread of the virus. We need to stop them, Jake said, his voice resolute. If we don't, this nightmare will never end. Ellie nodded, her face grim. We have no choice. If Mila's immunity is the key to a cure, we have to find it. Mila, sitting silently in the corner, looked up. Her eyes seemed different now, sharper, more intense. She could feel it, the strength pulsing through her body, the growing sense of control over her abilities. But it terrified her. What if she couldn't control it? What if the mutation had taken her over? Are you ready? Ellie asked, concern flickering in her eyes. Mila took a deep breath, trying to steady her trembling hands. I have no choice but to be ready. The group gathered their gear, making sure they had enough supplies to infiltrate the organization's heavily fortified compound. The journey would be long and dangerous, but they had no other option. The road to the compound was treacherous, filled with abandoned cars, overgrown highways, and pockets of zombies. The landscape had been abandoned, empty, desolate, and utterly hostile. They moved through the ruins with practiced caution, staying low and avoiding any unnecessary noise. As night fell, they camped in an old barn, their exhaustion palpable. Ellie kept watch, her thoughts constantly drifting to Dr. Collins. His death had been a hard blow. It felt like they were losing everyone who could help them. Mila had retreated into herself, her mind racing with the changes inside her. The mutation was evolving faster than she could understand. At times, she felt like an entirely different person. Could the immunity really be the cure? Or was she just a weapon, a new breed of human that had no place in this world anymore? "Are you okay?" Jake's voice cut through her thoughts. She nodded, though the truth was, she didn't know. "We'll make it through this," he added, though his tone held a hint of uncertainty. By dawn, they reached the compound's outskirts. The perimeter was heavily guarded, with armed sentries patrolling the area. Ellie, Jake, and Mila waited in the shadows, studying the guards' patterns. The compound itself was surrounded by high walls, cameras, and an electric fence. They would have to be quick. "We go in through the maintenance tunnels," Jake whispered, pointing to a nearby grate. "It'll take us right into the heart of the compound. From there, we just have to stay quiet." Mila felt the familiar pull of the virus within her, the odd sensation in her veins as if the mutation inside her was becoming a part of her, an uncontrollable force. But she pushed it down. They needed her, and she couldn't afford to lose herself now. They made their move, slipping into the tunnels, the stench of damp concrete and decay surrounding them. The air was thick with tension as they moved silently through the dark, avoiding security cameras and patrolling guards. Suddenly, the sound of boots echoed down the tunnel. Ellie and Jake pressed themselves against the walls, holding their breath as two guards passed by. Mila's pulse quickened, and without thinking, her hand shot out, her fingers brushing against a metal pipe. The pipe bent under her touch, and a high-pitched screech filled the air. "Damn it!" Jake hissed, grabbing Mila's arm and pulling her away. "Control it, I didn't do that," Mila said, panic creeping into her voice. "I swear, I didn't mean to." But the noise had already drawn attention. A guard turned down the tunnel, his flashlight blinding them for a moment. "Mila, move," Ellie shouted, and the group bolted down the tunnel. They burst through a door and into the lab area, where rows of machines hummed with activity. Glass vials filled with ominous, glowing liquid lined the shelves. The virus was being mass-produced here, and Mila's immunity was the key. As they reached the heart of the lab, a figure stepped from the shadows. "Marcus, I knew you'd come," he said, his smile cold and mocking. "But you're too late." Ellie stepped forward, fury in her eyes. "You betrayed us. You used us. You used Mila." Marcus chuckled, his eyes gleaming with something darker. "I didn't use anyone. You just didn't understand the bigger picture. You thought you were fighting for a cure. But the truth is, the cure was never the point. I'm here to control the outbreak, not stop it. You don't get it, do you?" Jake snarled, drawing his weapon. "You're part of the problem." Marcus turned and pressed a button on a nearby console. "I'm not part of the problem. I am the solution." Suddenly, alarms blared, and red lights flashed. A massive, ominous machine in the center of the lab whirred to life. "The virus is already changing. What you see here," Marcus said, turning back to face them, "is only the beginning." A high-pitched screech echoed from the machine as it released a deadly new strain of the virus. It wasn't just a virus anymore. It was something else, something worse. The horde of infected outside the compound began to change. The strain Marcus had unleashed spread rapidly, mutating the infected into terrifying, hyper-aggressive creatures with enhanced strength and speed. They were no longer just mindless zombies, they were predators, intelligent and lethal. As the first of the new strain surged toward them, their eyes wide with horror, the ground began to shake. The machines hummed louder, pumping more of the new virus into the air. The new breed of infected burst through the doors, eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. "Get out!" Ellie screamed, grabbing Mila's arm. But the walls of the compound were closing in. The future of humanity was now more uncertain than ever. The virus had evolved into something unstoppable, and their fight was only beginning. The group made a desperate dash for the exit, but as they neared the door, the new strain was upon them. A battle for survival was about to begin, and Ellie knew, this time, it wouldn't be just the infected they had to worry about. The new strain was something far worse. This chapter increases the stakes for the survivors while unveiling the darker aspects of Marcus's organization and the virus itself. The group now faces a new, even more terrifying threat. Let me know if you'd like further details or adjustments. The compound was collapsing, the virus was raging, and time was running out. Ellie and Jake found themselves in the heart of the lab, surrounded by infected soldiers and monstrous mutants. It was clear that Marcus had already prepared for this moment, but what he hadn't accounted for was Mila, her immunity, her resolve. "Marcus!" Ellie shouted, her voice echoing across the darkened lab as the hum of machinery filled the air. "This ends now." Marcus stood at the control panel, his eyes gleaming with manic intensity. His expression was twisted with rage as he activated more of the infected units. "You think you can stop me? You don't understand what's at stake. You've been nothing more than pawns in a game far larger than you." A deafening roar sounded from the hallway, and a flood of mutated zombies charged toward them. Jake aimed his rifle, picking off the infected one by one as Ellie rushed toward Marcus, her eyes burning with fury. She couldn't let him get away. She couldn't let him continue with this nightmare. But even as the group fought, the knowledge lingered in the back of Ellie's mind. If they didn't stop Marcus, if they didn't neutralize the virus, all would be lost. Mila had been moving silently behind the others, but now she knew what had to be done. She could feel the mutation inside her growing stronger with each passing moment. It had already started to consume her, but she had the power to change everything. She had to make the choice, now. As Ellie and Jake held Marcus off, Mila slipped away toward the air filtration system, her heart pounding. She was only steps away from the central control panel, the final key to stopping the virus. But she had one choice, to sacrifice herself, knowing that she wouldn't survive. The air in the lab was thick with a suffocating mix of fear and death, but Mila stood still for a moment, watching her friends fight. They were everything to her, and if this was the only way to end it all, then she had no regrets. "I'm sorry," she whispered to herself. "I'm sorry it has to end this way."